How China rigged the Little League World Series? That seems kind of interesting. How long is it?
Statistically speaking, winning the Little League World Series is
Let's give it a shot. It seems kind of interesting. This could be a very fun.
one of the hardest things to do in sports. The Republic of China won this tournament without giving up a single hit. One year, Little League banned every single international team just because they were too good. They went over a decade without losing a single game, and over a 3-decade span, outscored their opponents 661 to 82. They also caused multiple riots during World Series games, government spies and activists to beat each other with baseball bats in the bleachers, multiple police helicopters to be deployed, and multiple, quote, terrorists to...
Pause. Wait, my headphones came out.
Multiple police helicopters to be deployed, and multiple, quote, terrorists to be arrested. This all occurred during Little League games and was the result of a cheating system designed by the government solely to use Little League as a propaganda tool to...
Wait, so is this Taiwan or China itself, like China mainland?
overthrow the communist regime. When asked what it was like to play on the Republic of China, one of their players said, quote, "It was like hell." Another player says their coach threatened to kill them if they lost. A few years later, this coach was sentenced to prison for cheating in Little League. A player was paralyzed due to overtraining, and a few decades later, over half the team was dead from alcohol abuse. These 12-year-olds were the most famous athletes in their home country, but in America, they were accused of being adult midgets hired by their dictator, or booed and abused by American fans until they were caught in an act of cheating so egregious they were forced to stop playing Little League baseball.
Everyone is bad. Everyone involved with this is fucking psychotic.
Baseball altogether. The most famous Little League team from the Republic of China was the first Little League team from the Republic of China, and also by far the most tragic. In 1968, a team from Hongyang Elementary School won the country's national youth baseball tournament and were invited to play an exhibition game against a team from Japan, which typically isn't really a big deal, until the government got involved, which led to a coach being arrested. A new state-sponsored cheating system most likely ruined the lives of most of the kids on the team, while simultaneously making them the most famous people on the island. After World War II, Taiwan was given to the Republic of China, who was in the middle of getting destroyed by the Communist Party in a civil war. The Communists took over the mainland, and the previous government of China now only controlled Taiwan. By the mid-60s, basically the entire world recognized that the Communist Party was the ruling government, but the former government who fled to Taiwan still called themselves the Republic of China, claimed to be the real China, and planned on invading the mainland and retaking the land they lost. And
that's unlikely. I'll be honest with you.
somehow, someway, dominating Little League Baseball became a massive part of this plan. The game between Hongyang Elementary School and the Little League team from Japan was supposed to be a friendly exhibition, but the Republic of China saw this as an opportunity to show that they were superior to Japan, who used to control Taiwan. So the government sent the kids from Taiwan to a remote military base to train for an entire month. Coaches lined up players and fired fastballs at their chest so they wouldn't be scared of the ball. One player says the coach threatened to kill them if they lost, and a Taiwanese newspaper reported their training schedule was so serious, 2 of the coach's children died because he didn't have time to take them to the hospital.
What the
Hongyang
fuck?
beat Japan 3 out of 4 games. These 3 games were all won by the same pitcher who...
Damn, imagine only winning 3 out of 4 though, after that schedule. The other teams got Capri Suns. They practice like once a week. They still won 1 out of 4. That's fucking crazy. That's crazy, dude. You spent a month fucking testing fastballs?
threw an insane 20 innings in 4 days. The games were nationally televised. Over 30,000 fans came to watch the final game, and since the press lied and said they beat the Little League World Series champions, the players instantly became national heroes. Sadly, it was discovered that 9 of them used fake identities. Most of the players didn't even live where the school was located, and the ones that did usually didn't even go to class. 6 of them were overaged, and one 11-year-old on the team was already married.
What the fuck? This is one of the wildest fucking sports stories I've ever heard. That doesn't mean 11-year-old is the right age for Little League, right? He just happens to be married. So I guess that's like Air Bud. It's not illegal. He didn't break the rules. There's no rule saying an 11-year-old can't be married in Little League. Married to the game. Married to stealing third, baby. This guy's a fucking hustler.
A year later, their principal, coach, and administrator were sentenced to a 2-year suspended sentence for forging the kids' identities, but the government covered this up completely and the public never found out. 2 years later, the coach died in a car accident. The players played baseball full-time at 12.
Hey, this is unrelated, but one of Epstein's close associates who helped with his child sex trafficking killed himself in prison today. Interesting. They just keep getting so sad. All of these guys keep getting so sad right when they get into prison. Very odd in a French prison. His name was, I don't remember his name. He's a French guy. You can look it up. He was like 75 French, Epstein associate. And listen, I'm not, John, John something, I know that. Jean-Luc Brunel, that's exactly who it is. Yeah, and again, I am like almost 0% a conspiracy person, but it just feels very egregious that we have gotten none of the names of the rich people they fucking conspired with, and they're all dying the second they get caught. It just that's interesting to me. It just feels very inconvenient.
And never got an education. One player ended up paralyzed due to overtraining, and tragically, half the team died before the age of 50 due to alcohol abuse. Nonetheless, this team made youth baseball the most popular sport in the country, prompting the Republic of China to create their first official Little League team, and had them cheat even more. Their first team dominated their way directly to the Little League World Series. The players were noticeably smaller than the rest of the teams. The perception was that they were a group of aborigines from a village in the mountains that learned baseball with sticks and stones. According to one player, they didn't even wear shoes during competitions, and when they left Taiwan, the villagers sacrificed a pig in their honor. So they seemed like massive underdogs. In reality, they were perhaps the most unfair team ever assembled. 35,000 people came to watch them win the championship in 1969, which was a Little League World Series record. But in Taiwan, they had played in front of a crowd of 50,000. When they got home, they were over 30,000 just to see them get off the plane, and over half a million people came to their parade. These 12-year-olds were literally the most famous people on the island. It's important to understand, around this time, the US stopped giving aid to Taiwan. They were expelled from the United Nations. In the Olympics, they were banned from using the name Republic of China and didn't really win any medals anyway. The Little League World Series was basically the only international platform the Republic of China was allowed to participate in, so the government made it one of their top priorities. And this is when things got ugly. The Republic of China organized a program that hired full-time coaches, required players to live in dorms, and practice all year round. They were not expected to go to class. Players would wake up at 6 a.m., train over 9 hours a day, which included having pitchers throw 300 pitches a day in training.
That can't be good for these kids. This is how I grind Hitman, though, so Actually kind of seems weak to me.
According to Little League, all of this is illegal, but they would be caught for much worse. In 1971, the only runs Taiwan allowed the entire tournament came from a 3-run homer by future major leaguer Lloyd McClendon, who had the most insane stat line in Little League history. He was intentionally walked 10 times. In his other at-bats, he was 5 for 5 with 5 home runs. Taiwan had a player just as dominant. In the finals, he outdueled McClendon, throwing a Little League record 22 strikeouts in 9 innings. He became a celebrity in Taiwan for this performance. Today, he works in a factory, refuses to talk to the media, and denies ever playing in the Little League World Series.
Holy fuck. They scarred this kid for life. They made an Agent 47 of fucking pitchers. Oh, God. This is psychotic.
When Taiwan beat McClendon's team, a Taiwanese newspaper referred to him as, quote, Gorilla McSomething. Other newspapers wrote that the win proved that they were the most outstanding nation and race, that the Chinese Republic and Chinese race must be revived, and that they were now the giants of the world and better than those, quote, communist ping pong players. And using Little League as blatant propaganda like this upset a ton of people. Every year, the government would organize travel for thousands of Chinese Americans to come to the World Series. They were given flags and signs that supported the Republic of China. This was essentially advertising for the government, who did not want their name replaced by names like Taiwan or Chinese Taipei, because to them, they were still the rightful leaders of China. However, many Taiwanese people did not like the government and wanted Taiwanese independence. They showed up to protest. This pissed off the government, who hired spies and Chinatown gang members from New York City to intimidate these activists. In 1971, the championship was delayed when they ran onto the field to rip down a banner that said "Go Team Taiwan," causing a fight and local police to send a helicopter to secure the stadium. That same year, activists hired a plane to fly a banner over the field.
This could be a movie. This should be a movie. This is wild. I'm surprised I never heard of it. This is a crazy fucking story.
That read, "Long live Taiwan independence." The next year, the Republic of China rented every single commercial aircraft in the area to prevent this from happening again. They also
actually checkmate. Oh, that's so smart. Holy shit. Actually fucking 9-head.
Sent their Marines, who ended up fighting activists with baseball bats during the game beyond the left field fence. Some activists were beaten, taken to the hospital, or even arrested and deemed as terrorists. Around this time, these 12-year-olds were so good, they were legitimately hated in America. For the next 2 decades, they were booed, harassed, and constantly accused of cheating. Taiwan won the Little League World Series in 1971, giving up only 3 runs on 1 home run. They won in 1972 after giving up only 1 run the entire tournament. In 1973, they broke 5 offensive records, outscored their opponents.
Bro, American parents must have been so fucking pissed. Parents already take it real seriously. Little League already take it real seriously. Oh my God, they were fucking furious, I bet. Holy fuck.
Opponents 57-0, and in the most mind-boggling stat in Little League World Series history, they won the tournament without giving up a single hit. In Williamsport, they marched everywhere they went 2 by 2, didn't go to the pool or play ping pong with the other teams, and all of a sudden, their players were now bigger than their coaches. When they took the field in 1973, they were booed. One opposing coach said that he coached children while the Taiwanese kids were robots. Another coach said that if the kids from Taiwan are 12-year-olds, then I'm 3 years old. And it was a legitimate rumor and belief that Taiwan hired midgets to represent them in the Little League World Series. These rumors and domination led Little League to investigate Taiwan in 1974, but the investigator didn't even know Chinese and found nothing, saying Taiwan was just dedicated. The next year, they returned, won the World Series while giving up only 1 run, their 2nd run allowed in 3 years.
Let's go, California! 1 run, we got him! Woo! Never come to America and think you can fully sweep us with no fucking runs. All right? Cali, West Coast, baby.
During that stretch, they were so unfair, they had more World Series titles than runs allowed. Little League knew Taiwan was cheating, but couldn't punish them because they had no proof. So in 1975, they banned every single international team from competing, claiming the international teams were taking the tournament too seriously. But Taiwan was the only...
That's a classic fucking... America, we're good at that. We fucking love to do that, dude. We love our World Series, and it's just us. I love that fucking tryhards. You fucking tryhards out there.
International.
If you're the best team in America, you're the best team in the world. God damn it. That's what we stand by. That's all we need to see. Okay?
Team that had won a World Series that decade, so it seems this was just a roundabout way to get rid of Taiwan, which caused Taiwan to implement perhaps the most horrific policy in Little League history. Taiwan knew Little League was onto them, so when they were reinstated in 1976, they banned 3 of their best players, saying they were too old to play. Taiwan took these 3 players to a hospital to be examined by a doctor who determined by the size of their private parts were too mature to be 12. All 3 players were 12 years old and eligible, but Taiwan was so worried these players' size would make people suspicious, they banned them. And this embarrassment led Taiwan to implement forms of cheating never seen in Little League history, which caused scandal after scandal, and this is when things began to unravel. Starting in 1977, Taiwan won the World Series 4 times in a row by a combined score of 112-7. They finally lost in 1982 in an upset so shocking ESPN made a documentary about it. This was their first Little League World Series loss in 12 years and ended a 31-game win streak where they outscored their opponents 317-18. It seemed like Taiwan's dynasty might be over. In 1979, Taiwan was forced to stop calling themselves the Republic of China during Little League games, which dampened the propaganda power of Little League in the eyes of the government. And after losing in 82, then missing the World Series altogether the next 3 years, it seems like they may have stopped funding cheating altogether. This was not the case. They returned in 86, instantly setting 2 records by beating Canada 26-0 and won their 12th World Series. The next year, they only gave up 1 run the entire tournament, winning the championship 21-1. In 1990, they won the World Series by a combined score of 43-1, and in 91, they won again by a combined score of 31-3. But 2 years later, they were caught using players outside their district. However, this cheating was nothing compared to what was about to be discovered. After a 1-year suspension, they returned in 95 and seemed to cheat even worse. Over a 2-year stretch, they went 10-0, outscored opponents 109-15, set 25 Little League records in 2 years, and won their final 2 World Series. Because in 1997, they were caught cheating again, but this time it was serious, and there were dozens of infractions. The first one was that their players were essentially professional athletes. Unlike other countries, Taiwan's teams were forced to play all year round. Most, if not all, were forced to live in dorms where they were not expected to do schoolwork, but according to one player, practiced over 9 hours a day. This was possible for Taiwan.
Wait, didn't you say that like fucking 12 minutes ago? Weren't they already doing that for the past fucking 8 years of wins?
Because their teams were made up of players that all went to the same school, which was legal according to Little League, but not the way Taiwan did it. Teams in the Little League World Series are supposed to be made up of the best players from certain local areas. When teams get caught cheating, it's usually because it's discovered their players were chosen from areas outside of their boundaries. Taiwan took this to another level. Many of these schools essentially acted like college football programs. They received money to fund their programs, paid full-time coaches, and recruited players from across the country to create super teams. In one extreme example, a player played for 8 different schools in 9 years. School and government officials also manipulated zoning to ensure the best players were all on the same team. Let's say there was a district in Taiwan that had a population of 100,000 people. According to Little League, this area should have at least 6 teams.
Bro, they were gerrymandering Little League. That's so fucking degenerate. That's so fucking degenerate. What do you think this is gonna do, dude? Really? This is crazy.
Taiwan would have just 1 team, then officials would create 5 fake teams with fake players to make it seem like they were picking from a population of 15,000, when in reality, they were picking from a population 6 times larger, and it gets even worse. Taiwan was split into 4 districts. 4 tournaments were played to find the best teams in each district. These teams would then play in the national tournament to decide which team would represent the country. The teams that won the district tournament likely had already been stacked with illegal players from outside the district, but Taiwan still required them to kick off 4 or 5 of their worst players so they could replace them with better players whose teams had already been eliminated. This likely occurred after the national championship as well. 9 players on the national champions team would go to Williamsport. 5 of their worst players would be sent home and replaced by the other 5 best players in Taiwan who had already been eliminated. In theory, by the time a team won the national championship, their original team could have been entirely replaced by better players, and sometimes even this wasn't enough. In 1969, after 5 of the national championship players were replaced, Taiwan worried they still weren't strong enough. They took this team, selected 14 of the best players in Taiwan, split them into 2 entirely new teams, then had them play each other, took the winning team's 5 worst players, and replaced them with the losing team's 5 best players, meaning that the 1969 championship team everyone thought was an underdog from a small village was actually a national all-star team who picked from a population.
Okay. Okay, dude. That's fucking wild. They're like, yeah, they're creating like Darwinism evolutionary. Dude, they went fucking, yeah, they're EV farming.
Of 14 million people. After winning the World Series, players were often showered with money from fans everywhere they went. Parents accused coaches of taking the money from players to keep for themselves, and some parents of players who were replaced pressed charges against officials from keeping their kids from going to Williamsport and missing out on this extra money. All of these cheating methods are outlined in the book Playing in Isolation, which I highly recommend. Taiwan's dominance lasted 3 decades, so it's hard to know if they used every single one of these methods every single year, but according to one Taiwanese baseball official, not a single Taiwanese team went to Williamsport without cheating. But after decades of investigations and speculation, Taiwan seemed to realize the damage they were doing to Little League and their players, and after another investigation in 1997, they voluntarily pulled out of Little League competition. In 2002, they rejoined, and now they play by the rules. In 20 years, they've made it back to Williamsport 8 times. They finished second in 2009, but haven't won a World Series. They're still very good at baseball, but unless they start cheating again, they'll never be as good as when they were the most overpowered and illegal Little League team in history.
That was a wild fucking story. That's crazy. Oh, this was wrong? 30 years in? 30 years in, dominating every single year, ruining kids' lives? Oh, this was wrong? Oh, we should stop? Okay. I see that now. Now that half of these kids have grown up and died from alcohol abuse, I'm starting to see. Okay. Damn, that's wild. What's crazy is it accomplished nothing. Except maybe making other countries dislike them. Like no one was like, oh my God, their kids are so good at baseball. Their country must be great. What does that mean? It doesn't change. It's nothing. Like it accomplished nothing. It's only fucking for the people internally. I guess national pride. Yeah, internal national pride is why.